If the investment was 16 grand to make hundreds of thousands of dollars, obviously you would pay the money. But it's never that clear cut. It's 16 grand for the opportunity, the potential, the chance that you could create something successful, because the rest is up to you. The rest is up to you.
Hey mate, I'm Coach Mitch and welcome to the Unbreakable Man podcast. It's my goal to help you achieve excellent results in the area of your health and physical fitness, your career or business, your relationships, and in your own personal passions. This is going to be your one-stop shop if you are the kind of man who wants to achieve his fullest potential in life. And the only way to do that is by becoming unbreakable. What's up, brother? Coach Mitch here, and welcome to today's episode of the Unbreakable Man podcast. Now, today's episode, this is going to be kind of an interesting conversation because I wanted to discuss the main objection that I get, and anyone who's ever worked a sales job or anyone who runs a business, the main objection that we get. What is that? Well, it's, I can't afford it. The price is too high, essentially. And I really want to dive into that statement and that response that we all give. You know, it's not just, my clients or potential customers, but also, me in my own life. I really want to dive into that statement to dissect what it really means. And this conversation is not about me trying to sell you anything. This conversation is about exposing you to some new ideas on how we perceive value in our life. Because that's what this conversation around, if you're trying to sell something, that's what the conversation is really. It's how much value am I getting for the money that I'm paying? How much, and that's all that transaction is an exchange of value at the end of the day. So I think that in order for us to make really solid purchases, but even more importantly, in order for us to get over some of the hang-ups that we have around money and around spending it on things that perhaps we maybe struggle to justify but would ultimately be good for us, then we can not only achieve our goals, but get there faster. Because I believe that some of the most valuable things in life are really, really difficult to put a price tag on. If you just think about money for a second, if we go right down to the start of this whole conversation, what is money? Well, money at the end of the day is just the way that we choose to store value. That's all it is. Money is just a store of value. The numbers that you see on your phone screen when you're looking at your bank account, they're not real. It's just numbers on a screen. They don't represent any physical thing. And that paper that you might have in your wallet, the paper that money's printed on is meaningless. Like that paper can't do anything, can it? We can't produce anything with that paper. It just is the way that we store our value. Everyone in Australia and even the world has belief in the Aussie dollar, and as a result of that, because we believe it has value, and it allows us to exchange that store of value for other things that we value more. At the end of the day, if you're not willing to pay your money for it, then that means that you value your money more than you value the thing that you're potentially paying your money for. So that's all we're doing when we have money. And what money really helps us do is it helps us figure out the value of things. So when you go to the shops and you see the price of things, all it is showing you the value of that item. And now we have a preconceived notion around what certain things should cost based on what we see them being valued at on a regular basis in our life. But some things in life are really, really difficult to put a price tag on. Like, how much a new car costs, like a new Toyota Corolla. We know how much that costs. We can go on Google and find out the price of a new Toyota Corolla. But what is the price that you would put on your physical health? Who knows?
it's kind of relative, really, isn't it? Some people value their health more than others. Some people value their health more than anything else and happily spend thousands of dollars every single year making sure that they stay in really good health. Some people spend millions of dollars every single year making sure they stay in great health. LeBron James, for example, spends over $1 million a year on his body, his health, his fitness, because, I mean, as a professional athlete, that's probably quite a good investment. Because it's that important to him. He values it that highly, and he's a smart man for doing so. But things like that are really, really difficult to put a price tag on. And so when it comes to investing or exchanging value for things in our, for those kinds of things in our life, those things that are difficult to put a price tag on, we struggle. And that's kind of what this conversation is all about. How can we assess the value of making progress in our life? How can we assess the value of the relationships that we have in our life and how much we might be willing to spend to keep those relationships in really good condition? How can we assess the value of our physical health? How can we assess the value of our own personal progress? How can we assess the value of our success in our professional life, or in our let's say, maybe there's a sport that you love or a hobby that you love? How can we assess the value of those things? And if you have a process for helping you assess the value of those things, then you can decide whether it's worth it, whether it's worth the price. Because at the end of the day, when someone says, I can't afford it, what that really means isn't I can't afford it. It means that I don't believe it's worth the amount of money that you are asking for it. And let me just give you an example. I'm going to prove to you why the problem is never the price. The problem is always the amount of value we feel like we are receiving as a result of paying that price. So, for example, I run the Unbreakable Man Retreat. The cost of a ticket for the retreat is $1,300 for guys who aren't in my training group, and it's $1,000 for guys that are in the training group. And, you know, I've had lots of guys come and join me on this retreat. It's an amazing experience. I've had plenty of fellas make some really great progress in their physical health, their personal lives, and their professional lives as a result of going through this experience. However, like most things, the main objection that I get is, I can't afford it. I don't have the money. And that makes total sense. You know, if you're a guy who has $0 in his bank account, or let's say it has $100 in his bank account, and you're faced with the prospect of spending $1,300 on a 2-day experience that's all about helping you set goals and build the confidence in your own ability to achieve those goals. And, you know, let's say you want to become the kind of guy that doesn't just have $100 in his bank account, but actually owns his own home. And that might be one of the goals that you would figure out at the retreat. But if you only have $100 in your account and this thing is $1,300, then it's pretty reasonable for that guy to say, Mitch, I can't afford it. I don't have the money. But this is proof, this is evidence that it's not about the money, it's about what you think you're getting. Because if that same dude who only has $100 in his bank account was faced with a $1,300 purchase, but that $1,300 purchase was actually a brand new house for $1,300, you know, this house might be worth, the average house price on the Gold Coast right now is $800,000. So let's say it's an average Gold Coast house. It's $800K's worth of house for $1,300. This guy with $100 in his bank account would go, oh, fucking hell, really? You're serious about that? And the person selling the house says, yeah, you can have it for $1,300. That guy would say, okay, look, I don't have $1,300 in my bank account right now, but give me an hour and I'll make sure I have the money and I'm going to pay it to you because I really want this deal. If that happened, that guy would do whatever it took to gather $1,300 worth of cash and pay that money to have that brand new Gold Coast house that's worth $800,000.
Obviously, you watching this right now would obviously take that deal because the value of what you're getting versus the value of what you're giving is like the value is so much greater what you're getting back. It's an obvious yes, and you would do a lot of work, almost anything, to get that deal to go through, right? So in that case, the value is really obvious. Would you trade $1,300 for 800 grand's worth of house? Obviously, you would do that because it's so clear the difference in the value. So even a guy with $100 in his bank account can still afford something that's $1,300 if he values that thing enough. And that's my point. So for you watching this right now, next time you say you can't afford it, remember what you're really saying is, I don't value the thing that you are selling me more than I value the amount of money that you're asking for it. That's what you really mean when you say, I can't afford it. Because even if you didn't have that much money at all in your life in any way, you didn't have that much cash, you didn't even have that much stuff to sell to gather that much cash, you'd still find a way, right? If you were a resourceful person, it would be calling up mates trying to borrow some cash and say, hey, look, I've got this deal. I know it sounds insane, but it really is legit, and I need XYZ. Or you'd go and get like a loan or something like that. And this is not me saying you should get a loan to buy a retreat ticket. I'm just saying that you would pull out all the stops if you felt the value of the thing that you were getting was way more than the value of what you were giving. So it's not about how much money something costs. It's about what you think you're getting back for the money that you are spending. And it's really important that you're aware of that. Because, and this is why, if I go back to what I was saying at the beginning around some of the most valuable things in life are difficult to put a price tag on. Because at the end of the day, no one's going to offer you a brand new house for $1,300. But if you had to spend $1,300 to learn exactly what you needed to do to get to the point where you could buy that house, then that $1,300 investment, if you perceive it as a gateway to you getting to the place where you want to be from being a guy who just has $100 in his bank account, then you can start to see the value increase in the thing that you're being offered. But the problem is, a lot of guys will look at that, and then look at their bank account and go, well, these things don't add up, so I can't afford it. And look, makes total sense. If you don't value it, don't buy it. But by not taking it any further than that and asking yourself, well, what could this bring me in my life? And how much would that be worth to me? Then you end up missing out on so many opportunities in your life because you never actually take that chance. You never actually put yourself in that position where make the investment today to provide yourself with an opportunity and a pathway to where you're trying to get to. So I'll give you a personal story from my life when it around figuring out what something was worth to me and making a pretty tough purchase that was a lot of money for me at the time, and more than half of what I had in my bank account, more than half of the cash that I had on me entirely, on something that I really didn't necessarily know what I was getting for the money, not super clearly anyway. But the reason why I paid it was because I could see how this could affect my life positively over the long term. So this is going back to how me beginning as a coach all started, where this all came from. And what might be interesting is, you have probably seen these things on Facebook before yourself. As you're scrolling through, you see an advert and it's a guy talking to you and they're trying to sell you a course or something like that. And maybe you've scrolled past those things every single time you've ever seen them in your life. Well, I was one of the dumbasses that actually clicked on one of those things, watched the 45-minute training video, which is really kind of it's a pitch basically, booked in for the consultation call and jumped on the call with basically what was a salesperson for this business. And at the end of that sales process, because what I was looking for was a way to start a group fitness business,
and work online as well at the time. And I didn't have the answers. I didn't know how I could progress from where I was in my career as a PT, but I thought that this might be the next step. Like, it wasn't even a certain thing. I just thought this is a possibility. But I know I need to progress. I cannot stay here. If I stay here, then I know I'm going to feel shit. So anyway, I went through the sales process, got to the end of the call, and the guy pitched me $6,000 for an online training course on how to set up a group fitness business online. And it was like a 12-week course, $6,000. I was 22 at the time, and I probably had 10 grand in my bank account. So 60% of my cash was what this guy was asking for this course. Obviously you don't get to see what the course is like before you do it. You just, if you want, we've explained to you how it works, and there's kind of that trust factor there that, this person really means it when they say that this is what they're going to do for you. You don't really know that. I don't know these people. I've never met them in the flesh. They're online coaches. And, it pitched me at $6,000. And I remember thinking, oh, Jesus, that's a lot of money. It's more money than I was expecting it was going to cost. And one thing that this salesman did that I'll never forget, that was actually the best thing that totally changed my life, was I said to him, can I think about it and get back to you in half an hour? And he said no. He said, nope. Either you're in or out, yes, no, right now. Now, in hindsight, knowing a lot more about sales now than I ever used to, if I'd said no, and then I'd given them a call back half an hour later and said, yeah, I do actually want to do it, they probably would have taken my money, to be honest. However, the salesman was good at what he did, and I believe that that's what he meant when he said it. And then he said, we need an answer on the spot right now. What do you want to do? He put me on the spot. And to me, it wasn't $6,000 for an online training course. That wasn't what I was looking at. It was $6,000 to potentially set up a business that was what I really wanted, that could change my life. That's what it was. It wasn't a training course. It was an opportunity to create this thing that mattered more to me than anything else at the time. And so I paid it. I paid $6,000 to people I'd never met before for a thing that I didn't really know what it was, on the off chance that it was going to be the thing that would get me to where I wanted to be at the time. And it was that purchase that actually turned into the Legendary program, which is what Unbreakable Man used to be called, that led to me being here in front of you today. And from that $6,000 investment, and I probably maybe spent another 10 grand with that particular business coach over the maybe 2 years after that. So off 16 grand's worth of business coaching, I've made hundreds of thousands of dollars running this business over the last 5 years. So again, if the investment was 16 grand to make hundreds of thousands of dollars, obviously you would pay the money, but it's never that clear cut. It's 16 grand for the opportunity, the potential, the chance that you could create something successful, because the rest is up to you. The rest is up to you. But I saw the value in it, and it fucking changed my life. And that's the reason why, what's funny is, I have to sell in my business. I have to sell people to come and join us at the gym. I have to sell people on coming and joining us at a retreat or at an event. But I myself am one of the easiest people to sell to, because if you sit down in front of me and show me clearly that what you are trying to give me helps me solve my problem that I have, then I'll pay good money to have that problem solved, because I know the value of having that problem solved. If someone said to me, Mitch, I'm going to set up a perfect marketing system for you. We're going to have email marketing. We're going to have social media advertising. We're going to have Google advertising. We're going to have, social advertising with people with your shirts on everywhere. We're going to have you on podcasts all over the world. And, we're going to get your face in front of millions of people. We're going to get your face in front of millions of people and your business in front of millions of people. It's going to cost you $100,000. I would pay that like that. If that was actually accurate and true, and they showed me that it was, then I'd pay the 100 grand like that. Why wouldn't I? Because that system is worth millions of dollars. So in the sense of value exchange, obviously it makes sense. But a lot of people don't think like that. They just see the amount of money that something costs. They don't see what it could bring them in their lives. And that's what I'm advising you to think about. Whenever you're about to make a purchase, remember what you're actually buying. You're not buying the thing. You're buying what that thing could bring to you in your life. And if you believe that that result, that thing it's bringing to you in your life, is worth more than the money that they're asking for it, then you pay the fucking money, or you find a way to pay the money. You know, if someone says, look, you know, I really struggle to get into to create intimate relationships. You know, I'm a guy, I've never had a girlfriend, and I don't know how to talk to girls, and I don't know how to, I really want a girlfriend. I don't know how to do it. You know, and then I say, okay, cool. Well, it's going to cost you $1,000 for me to show you how to do that. And he goes, oh, well, I don't have $1,000. Okay, well, stop for a second and think. What would it be worth to you to have a beautiful, intimate relationship in your life for the rest of your life? Would that be worth $1,000? Yes, probably, hopefully. And think about this, lads. If the thing that you are not buying because of the amount of money that it costs, when you choose to not purchase something, remember what you are telling yourself. You're telling yourself that it's not worth that much to you, right? So if it, say, it was $1,000 for you to fix your marriage, just as an example, obviously it's kind of difficult to put a price tag on fixing your marriage, but let's just say it was an immediate exchange. It's like, you give me $1,000, I snap my fingers, your marriage is fixed. You know, hopefully guys who weren't having a good time in their marriage would make that value exchange. You know, even if they had to sort of really struggle to get the money together, hopefully they would still make that value exchange. But if they weren't willing to do that, then that shows me, you, and everyone else how much you actually value that thing in your life. And the reason why something might not be working out for you in your life right now is not because you can't afford it. It's not because there's no opportunity to make a change. It's because you don't value it enough. Most people whose health is not great, it's not because it couldn't be great. It's because they just don't value their health that much. That's the truth. You know, they might turn around and say, I really want to be healthy. But what do your actions say? Do your actions tell me that you're someone who really wants to be healthy, or someone that really wants to be fit, or someone that really wants to be successful, or someone that really wants to have a beautiful, intimate relationship? Do your actions reflect that? And the very decision to not want to invest in improving those parts of your life should be an indicator to you that you actually don't value that much. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's up to you to decide what's valuable to you. But if you're trying to change something, but you're not willing to sacrifice in order to change it, then that's the reason why it's not changing. That's the reason why that area of your life is not working right now. Simply because you don't value it enough. You don't value it enough to make a sacrifice. You don't value it enough to put other things behind it so that you can fix that thing. So if there's a part of your life that you want to change, that you're struggling to change, then look at your actions and see if your actions actually look like the actions of someone who really wants to make that change in their life. Again, it's all about value. You know, if you want to be healthy, but you say gym's too expensive, but then you buy a carton of beer every single week, well, there's your gym membership right now, but you're pissing it away every single week. So what do you value? Do you value that health that you said you valued, or do you actually value getting pissed and drinking beer throughout the week? Because right now, your actions are telling me that your value really lies with that carton of beer, not with your health. So hopefully that all makes sense. And what I'm trying to help you do right now is get clear on how to value those things in your life that are difficult to put a price tag on, to help you decide on, to help make the decision of investing in those areas easier? Is it worth what that investment is going to bring to you in your life? Like if someone said, I'll fix your health, it's going to cost you $10,000. You might think 10 grand, that's a lot of money. But how much is your health worth to you? Imagine being healthy for the rest of your life and it only cost you 10 grand to make that happen. And you might think, well, that's easy to say if you got 10 grand. It's like, well, even if you didn't have 10 grand in your pocket right now, would it still not conceptually be worth that to be healthy for the rest of your life? Money comes and goes. Like your health is kind of everything. Everything kind of comes back to what you're physically capable of doing. So anyway, that's my opinion on that anyway. But the last thing that I wanted to go through is, okay, so you get all that. Let's say you're kind of on board with the idea of, okay, it's not about the cost, it's about the value that I feel like I'm receiving. And that's the real important thing. And that's the thing that I have to consider before I make a purchase. And before I just instantly default to, I can't afford it. Because that's the real reason why that line comes out. It's a default setting. It's like, I don't have time. It's the same fucking thing. What do you mean you don't have time? Like, I don't have time to go to the gym. It's like, okay, did you just sit down and go through your entire schedule to see where exactly you're spending all your time right now and to see if there's any gaps in there? Or did you just say you don't have time because you can't be fucked figuring out how to fit it into your life? They're not the same thing, right? It's not that you don't have time. It's just that you automatically go to that response because that's how you always deal with these kinds of things in your life. Lots of dudes do that. And I can't afford it is a similar sort of scenario. So, but let's say you get all that. You're on board. You think, okay, cool. So it's about the value that I think I'm getting from it. And your next question is, okay, Mitch, but that doesn't change the fact that, let's say a retreat ticket is $1,300 and I physically don't have $1,300 in my pocket right now. Fair enough. Well then, if you're ever in a situation like that where you want something but it genuinely is too expensive, like you do not have the money, well, obviously you don't have enough value to exchange for that thing right now. So that's fair. That makes sense. So then, instead of saying, I can't afford it, like you've already decided that this is what you want, but you can see the fact that it costs too much for what you have. Instead of just saying, well, I can't afford it, and then just basically scrapping that idea, even though it's something you really want in your life, instead of saying I can't afford it, the next thing that you should say is, how can I afford it? What must I do in order to be able to purchase that thing that's going to give me that experience in my life? What must I do? How can I make that happen? And another reason why I really don't like, personally, I don't like it when I think shit like that, I can't afford it. The reason why I don't like it is because it's just really lazy. It's really, really lazy way of thinking. I've put absolutely no effort into figuring out how to solve this problem. Because that's all it is. It's a problem. Okay, I want this, I have this, or I want this, but I don't have enough to get it. So how do I get enough to get it so that I can have the thing? That's all it is. It's just it's a problem. Like you learned in school, you did math problems. You've done problem solving all throughout your life because that's what we do as human beings. We solve problems. This is just another problem to solve, just like any other problem you have in your life. So that's the question you got to ask yourself. How can I afford it? What can I do to make this happen? And some simple things like, even for some dudes who have come and joined us at the retreat, right? They didn't have the cost of the amount of money to purchase a ticket all in one go. So they said, hey, Mitch, look, I can't afford the full ticket price right now, but I really, really do want to be there. It's super important to me. Can I just pay you $100 a week for 13 weeks? And I go, yeah, sweet. Or I say no, and then we negotiate again. What can we do? What can we do? That's a great question too. What can we do? How can we make this work? I really want to do this. How can we make it work? There's always a way around a problem, but the fact of the matter is that most people never ask that follow-up question. Most people go, oh yeah, cool, I really want it. How much is it? oh, never mind, that's too much. And then that's it. And then they never change. And then they just end up being the same guy for the rest of their life. Well, the next question is, if it's not something you can immediately purchase or organize or get on the spot, then the question is, okay, well, how can I make that happen? How can I solve this problem? And that mindset is not just about acquiring the thing or having the experience or making the change in your life. That process is also about becoming a better person. Like it's almost like your progress and your improvement begins from the very moment that you start asking yourself the question, how can I make it happen? Like before you even start to gather the cash together to buy the thing that's going to give you the result, just by asking the question, you've already started to become a better person. You've already started to become a better man. But then as being a better man, you're a better leader for your family. You know, you're a better employee. You're better in every area because now you become a better problem solver. And that's ultimately what makes people want to know someone, right? If you're a great problem solver, people are going to come to you and ask for advice. They're going to come to you and want to exchange value with you because you're the guy that can solve the problems. And because you've had all this practice of solving problems in your own life. So that's this episode. Like I said, it's not about selling you anything. I don't care how you choose to use your money. What I do care is that you create the life that you're looking for. What I do care is that you don't settle. What I do care is that you don't become the kind of person who says that, I can't afford it, so I'm just not going to try, and then just end up being the same dude that lacks confidence, doesn't have the kind of health that he wants, doesn't have the sort of relationship that he wants, doesn't have the career or business that he wants, and just ends up stuck in the same place that most men are in society right now. My main goal with this episode is to help you start to formulate the ideas in your head that are going to help you create the result that you're looking for in your life. So hopefully that helps, guys. Remember, it's not about the price, it's about the value. And you've got to ask yourself, do I see myself getting more value from this than I'm exchanging in the form of money? And if the answer is yes, then you know what you need to do. And if you don't actually have that much money right now, but you know you really want to do it, then you ask that person, okay, cool, well, I don't actually have that much money right now, but how can we make it work? And if they can't offer a solution for you, then the next question is, okay, well, I really, really still do want to do this, or I really still want to buy that thing, whatever it is. What do I need to do to gather that much money? And then you start looking for solutions to that problem. And there's so many solutions to that problem. There's so many ways to make money, but most people just do the same boring thing, which is working for an hourly rate and let someone else decide how much money they can make, instead of figuring out how much they want to make and then looking for a pathway to creating that. If you want to be the best guy that you can be and create the best life that you could have for yourself, then these are the sorts of questions that you need to start asking and answering for yourself. So I hope that helped, guys. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Comment down below if you have any response to that. And with that said, have an amazing day. Can't wait to speak to you on the next episode. Cheers.
Hey mate, I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Unbreakable Man podcast. If you did, it would be absolutely fantastic if you could leave us a 5-star review, because that's going to help us get our message in front of more men who need to hear it. Now, if you have some feedback for me, I'd love to hear that too. Comment down below. And if you just need some mini doses of Unbreakable Man motivation throughout your week, then you can follow us across all social platforms. On Facebook, it's Unbreakable Man Challenge. On Instagram, it's Unbreakable Man _challenge. And on TikTok and YouTube, it's just Unbreakable Man. Your support would be absolutely invaluable. Now, last but not least, do not forget, men aren't born, they're built.